Melvyn Grant is a talented English artist and illustrator whose works stand out in the field of fantasy and sci-fi. His diverse portfolio includes works inspired by mythology and folklore, alongside pieces based on science fiction stories. His works have illustrated books by prominent authors such as Terry Pratchett and album covers of renowned heavy metal bands such as Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. Melvyn Grant was born in London, England. He has been creating art since he was a child. It's something that has always come naturally to him. After a couple of days at her first school, Mel's artistic skills caught the attention of his teacher, whom Mel only remembers as Yes Miss. This teacher became a very important element in his artistic development, as she had a good eye for art and motivated him to keep drawing and painting. Mel always got the highest class marks in art every year throughout his school life. In addition, being considered the school artist, he was the only student to attend the Brassey Institute School of Fine Arts at the early age of 12. But after 6 years at the Brassey, in an environment that he found increasingly depressing and monotonous, queuing for the bus under grey, rainy skies, Mel gradually lost motivation, and despite his tutor's pleas to him to stay, he decided to leave art school to take a break from painting and pursue other interests, including music and science. He studied electronics and worked in a variety of short-term jobs. He designed and built several unusual electric guitars and played some rock and roll, but finally, after some years, he went back into the world of art. Although his approach to painting is firmly rooted in traditional fine art, he found a much more exciting world in high-end fantasy illustration. In this field, he could give free rein to his imagination and give shape to ideas and techniques that have interested him for a long time. Melvyn's work reflects a connection to nature with its vivid colors, with intricate details capturing the beauty and the grotesque, projecting emotions. That wealth of talent eventually led him to work with major publishers, mainly in the UK, Europe, and the US. The majority of Melvyn's work is commissioned internationally. This has allowed him to work with the largest book company in the world, producing countless book illustrations of leading authors such as Terry Pratchett's Where's My Cow?, The Demonata series by Darren Shan, The Bartholomew Sequence by Jonathan Stroud. He also made illustrations for role-playing games books, including fighting fantasy game books FF3 Death Trap Dungeon, FF9 Shamutanti Hills, FF11 Carrie City Port of Traps, and FF13 The Seven Serpents. His style is often described as darkly atmospheric or moody realism, which gives us insight into how he interprets light and shadow within each piece, while still keeping true to lifelike details in every aspect, from clothing folds down through facial features right onto individual hairs. Melvyn Grant not only stands out for his technical talent that he applies in his illustrations, but also for his great versatility. His portfolio ranges from cute illustration for children to darkly realistic fantasy images. And this last style is the one that has made many illustrations have transcend in commercial products, even beyond books. His art has been in several album covers. Among them is the cover of the compilation 1981 album Hero Hero of the heavy metal band Judas Priest. This album is considered an unofficial release by the band itself, as it was released without their permission by the former record label of the British group. This image was not made exclusively for this Judas Priest release, as this illustration was made by Melvyn in 1976 with the title Sword of the Gale, and was never published until the record label contacted him looking for artwork for the album. But undoubtedly, his most outstanding work in this field are those made for the also British heavy metal band Iron Maiden. The work with this band began in the early 90s, when dissatisfied with the cover design proposed by the band's main illustrator since the beginning of their career, Derek Riggs. They were looking for a different alternative for the cover of their album Fear of the Dark.
Maiden asked me to come up with ideas for an image to go with the title, Fear of the Dark. They gave me no direction other than the title. It was a free run. So I went off and produced a few pencil drawings, of which the tree Eddie was one. I had wanted to redesign the look of Eddie quite extensively, but Maiden said to keep it close to the original.
Derek Riggs, till then, was the only artist who had illustrated the iconic mascot of the band, Eddie. In fact, he is considered its creator, so the challenge for Melvyn Grant was not easy to overcome, but the result of his interpretation of Eddie was more than satisfactory for the band. And that is how he then became the second illustrator who would give life to the best-known heavy metal zombie. Years later, he would work again with Iron Maiden, creating the cover of the Virtual 11 album in 1998.
Maiden asked for an idea to do with virtual reality. The concept behind Virtual 11, which I originally called Virtual Insanity, was of a boy sitting in a very tranquil setting, seeing Eddie and chaos through the VR set. So which world is the boy actually in? I was then asked to include the football game, which is how the title became Virtual 11.
Then, by the middle of the first decade of the millennium, he would design the cover of the live album Dead on the Road, released in 2005. A year later, he would do the art for the single The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brick. And later, he created the covers for the studio album The Final Frontier and the compilation From Fear to Eternity. Images produced by Melvyn Grant have also illustrated video games such as Ball and Captain Feast meets the Blaster Thrones. But his creativity does not only seem to be contained in drawings and paintings, since this artist has also ventured into writing, published a novel titled Pesky Baboon, whose description reads as follows: "This story is a must-read fantasy adventure. It'll have you loading your socks up, then lead you barefoot into dark happening. Set in southeast England and other strange places, there are some weird and dangerous characters." Melvyn Grant is truly one of a kind. His artwork is a reflection of his life, regardless of whether he does his illustrations with oil paint as in his first works or with computer, with which they are the most recent. His vibrant, colorful, dark, and full of energy works reflects passion and versatility. And that is the key word, versatility, which defines Grant's work quite well, since he demonstrates a constant creative restlessness, not only in the field of fantasy and science fiction, but in all the different fields in which this British artist wanted to explore.